The Earth Cooperative Alliance Council chamber fell silent as Admiral Chen's words resonated through the room. The holographic displays showed the Elloran worlds, crystalline cities burning under orbital bombardment, their once shimmering oceans now boiling away into space. "We have 24 hours to decide," Chen continued, her voice steady despite her fatigue. After that, the Hawking fold calculations become obsolete as Andromeda continues its celestial dance relative to our position. Defense Minister Okoro clasped his hands together, the gesture betraying his internal conflict. "Admiral, I understand the moral imperative, but we'd be committing nearly 40% of Earth's defensive capabilities to a mission beyond our galaxy. If the mission fails, we leave humanity vulnerable. And if we ignore this call," Dr. Rajiv Patel challenged, stepping forward with uncharacteristic boldness for a scientist. He tapped his tablet, and new images appeared, mathematical proofs embedded in the Elloran signal. These equations demonstrate the Vox Imperium's expansion rate. Their resource consumption algorithm is exponential. Today it's Andromeda. In approximately 3 centuries, it will be the Milky Way. Science Director Yamamoto nodded. "The math is sound. This isn't just altruism, it's preventative defense." Chairman Valdez, who had remained silent throughout the debate, finally spoke. "What exactly are we proposing, Admiral? A rescue mission? An evacuation? Or war?" Chen's expression remained impassive, but her eyes held a soldier's clarity. "First contact and threat assessment, followed by diplomatic and military options as warranted. The Ellorans clearly possess advanced technology. Their distress signal reached us through means we barely understand. If we can help them defeat this threat, humanity gains allies with knowledge beyond our own." Lieutenant Sarah Reeves, still technically just an observer at this meeting, cleared her throat. When Chen nodded permission, she addressed the council. "The signal contains more than just a cry for help. There's detailed tactical data on Vox vessels, their combat patterns, and weaknesses. The Ellorans aren't just asking for rescue. They're offering partnership." A murmur spread through the chamber. Admiral Chen allowed herself the smallest smile at her prodigious insight. Chairman Valdez surveyed the room, measuring the shifting mood. "We will vote. But first, Admiral Chen, answer me this. What are our chances of success?" Chen straightened to her full height, with conventional thinking. "Minimal. But humanity didn't reach the stars through conventional thinking. We've spent 2 centuries preparing for first contact, building a fleet that combines our greatest strengths: innovation, adaptability, and fierce determination. The Vox are machines following program directives. We are humans following our conscience. History favors the latter." The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. Operation Distant Thunder received authorization within the hour. As Admiral Chen left the chamber, Dr. Patel fell into step beside her. 30 ships against an armada that's conquering an entire galaxy. You didn't tell them the full odds. "Because mathematics can't calculate human ingenuity," Chen replied, already reviewing deployment rosters on her neural interface. "Besides, since when has humanity ever backed down from impossible odds?" The lunar shipyards received the deployment orders at 400 Earth Standard Time. By dawn, humanity's fiercest fleet began to assemble for the longest journey any human vessel had ever attempted, and the most important mission they would ever undertake. Chief Engineer Rodriguez pressed her palm against the thrumming hull of the Thunderchild, feeling the massive dreadnought's power resonate through the metal. The enhanced Hawking fold drive had transformed the vessel from a formidable warship into something entirely new, a craft capable of bending space-time itself across intergalactic distances. "Will it hold?" Admiral Chen asked, watching Rodriguez's expression closely. The engineer withdrew her hand and consulted her diagnostics tablet. "The material stress tolerances are at 132% of original design specifications. We've reinforced the structural integrity fields, but there's no precedent for what we're attempting." She looked up, dark eyes meeting Chen's. In simulations, we either make it perfectly or catastrophically disintegrate. There's no middle ground. Chen nodded, processing this information with the calm demeanor that had earned her command of Earth's most elite fleet. Then we make it perfectly. Across the shipyard's main concourse, the preparation frenzy continued unabated. Supply drones zipped between vessels, loading the last provisions and ammunition. Medical teams conducted final equipment checks, preparing for casualties they hoped would never come. Commander Jackson Wee supervised his Marine battalions as they loaded their dropships. The elite soldiers moved with practiced efficiency, their powered armor gleaming under the harsh lights. Y had hand-selected each squad leader, veterans who had proven themselves in the asteroid conflicts and the Jupiter-Moon rebellions. "Commander," Chen called as she approached the Marine staging area. "Walk with me." They stepped away from the troops, finding a quiet spot overlooking the busy landing bays. "Our intelligence on Vox capabilities is limited," Chen began without preamble. "Your boarding teams may encounter defenses we can't anticipate." Wade nodded, his weathered face impassive. "We've prepared multiple tactical packages based on Dr. Patel's analysis. My people are ready to adapt." "This isn't just about combat readiness," Chen said, lowering her voice. "If things go wrong out there, your Marines become humanity's ambassadors. Every soldier needs to understand that we're not just fighting for the Illorans, we're representing Earth to the galaxy. I'll address them before departure," Y promised. "They'll understand the stakes." In the diplomatic course section, Dr. Patel guided his team through final language drills. The temporary neural implants they'd received allowed accelerated processing of the preliminary Elloran linguistic structures, but the technology was experimental at best. "Remember, they perceive light frequencies we can't naturally see," Patel explained, adjusting the holographic projection. "Their concepts of time and space differ fundamentally from our linear perception. When in doubt, rely on mathematical expressions. They're the universal constant." Lieutenant Reeves entered the chamber, carrying the secure data packet. "Doctor, we've received another transmission burst from the Elloran Beacon Network. It contains updated tactical data on Vox fleet movements." Patel accepted the packet gratefully. "This confirms they're still fighting. We haven't come too late." As the final hour approached, Admiral Chen returned to her private quarters aboard the Thunderchild. She accessed her personal communication terminal one last time. "Message to Earth Central Command," she dictated. "Operation Distant Thunder preparations complete. 30 vessels, 15,000 personnel ready for deployment. Whatever awaits us in Andromeda, humanity will face it with courage and resolve. We depart at 600. Chen, commanding." She ended the recording and reached for a small wooden box on her desk. Inside rested a tarnished coin, a family heirloom from naval traditions centuries old. Chen flipped it once, caught it, and returned it to the box without looking at the result. Some decisions didn't need luck. They needed faith. The survivors regrouped in the void between galaxies, a region of space so empty it defied human comprehension. Pinpoints of light from distant galactic clusters provided the only illumination in this cosmic desert. The fleet hung suspended like dust motes in darkness, their running lights creating an artificial constellation. Lieutenant Reeves coordinated the damage assessment reports flooding into the Thunderchild's command center. 17 ships reporting moderate to severe structural damage. The Perseus and Orion have lost main weapons capability. Engineering teams estimate 12 hours for critical repairs. Admiral Chen studied the tactical display, where 27 ship markers glowed instead of 30. The absence of those 3 vessels weighed heavily on her, but there was no time for mourning. What about the Elloran transmissions? Are we still receiving? Intermittently, Dr. Patel confirmed from his station. Signal strength fluctuates, but we've pieced together more intelligence. He manipulated the display to show new imagery. The Vox originated from a derelict world ship discovered in a stellar graveyard. The Illorans believe they were hibernating for millions of years before being accidentally awakened during an archaeological expedition. Commander Wei, Joining the briefing via holographic projection from the Marine carrier Sabre, pointed to the imaging of Vox combat units. These aren't designed as weapons. These are industrial tools repurposed for combat. They're fighting with the equivalent of construction equipment. That explains their tactical limitations, Reeves noted, but not their effectiveness. How are they overwhelming the Illorans? Patel adjusted the display again. Sheer numbers and resource conversion efficiency. Each conquered world becomes raw material for more Vox units. They reproduce exponentially. Chen processed this information, her mind already formulating counter-strategies. So they'll follow optimization algorithms in combat, prioritizing high-value targets and maximum resource acquisition, which gives us an advantage. Wei concluded. They're predictable. The tactical meeting was interrupted as Chief Engineer Rodriguez entered, her uniform stained with coolant fluid. Admiral, we've discovered something in the fold drive diagnostics. The spatial distortions we encountered weren't random. They were deliberate interference patterns. A silence fell over the command center. Interference from what? Chen finally asked. Rodriguez's expression was grim. Another fold signature. Someone else is using similar technology in this region, and they didn't want us arriving intact. Before Chen could respond, the communications officer called out, Admiral, we're receiving a new transmission from the Elloran network. It's different from the others. The message materialized on the main display. A sequence of mathematical formulas followed by a star chart. Dr. Patel leaned forward, his eyes widening. It's a warning, he translated. The Vox have deployed a new type of vessel near the Elloran homeworld. They're calling it a world breaker. Tactical analysis revealed the horrifying truth. The Vox had constructed a massive gravitational weapon capable of destabilizing a planet's core. The Elloran homeworld had less than 6 days before total destruction. Admiral Chen made her decision instantly. Accelerate repairs. We resume transit in 6 hours. The fold drives need at least 10 for safety protocols, Rodriguez protested. Then we proceed without them, Chen replied. Plot a course for the Carina sector entry point. We'll emerge outside their sensor network and approach under stealth protocols. As the officers dispersed to execute her orders, Shen remained before the tactical display, studying the Andromeda Galaxy's spiral arms. Somewhere in that swirl of stars, an entire civilization awaited either salvation or extinction. The weight of that knowledge settled around her shoulders like a mantle. The Intrepid, Challenger, and Sentinel, she murmured to herself. Their sacrifice won't be in vain. The Elloran speaker's crystalline form refracted the light in pulsating patterns as it communicated with Dr. Patel. The translation matrix struggled to convert the complex photonic language, but the essence came through clearly. Amazement that beings from another galaxy had answered their call. We had activated the ancient beacon in desperation. The speaker's words formed in the translation display. Our ancestors found it buried beneath our oldest city. We never imagined it would reach beyond our galaxy. The beacon's quantum entanglement technology surpasses our own, Patel replied, careful to maintain the formal linguistic structure the matrix suggested. Your ancestors built well. The speaker's crystalline limbs shifted, creating a pattern that the translation software interpreted as a gesture of correction. Not our ancestors. The beacon predates our civilization by millions of cycles. We merely discovered it. This revelation sent ripples of excitement through Patel's scientific team. He carefully asked, who created the beacon network then? Before the speaker could answer, the diplomatic chamber shuddered violently. Emergency lights pulsed as the Elloran security forces moved to protect their leadership. Vox reinforcements have arrived, Lieutenant Reeves reported through Patel's comlink. Admiral Chen requests immediate extraction of your team. In orbit above the Elloran homeworld, the human fleet's tactical advantage was rapidly deteriorating. The initial micro-jump strategy had caught the Vox unprepared, but their adaptive algorithms were already implementing countermeasures. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Admiral Chen watched as the tactical display updated with alarming speed. They're deploying a new formation. Analysis. Lieutenant Reeves studied the patterns, her enhanced neural interface processing the data streams. They're creating a containment sphere, cutting off our retreat vectors. And there, Chen pointed to a massive signature emerging from fold space. The World Breaker. The vessel defied conventional design, a skeletal framework surrounding a pulsing gravitational core. Energy tendrils extended downward toward the planet's surface, already creating tectonic disruptions. Conventional weapons won't penetrate that energy field, the weapons officer reported. We'd need to hit the core directly. Chen's mind raced through options, discarding each as insufficient. Then she noticed a pattern in the Vox movements, a subtle rhythm to their coordination. They're networked, she realized. Lieutenant, analyze their communication patterns. Find me the command node. Reeves focused her attention on the signal traffic between Vox vessels. There, she finally said, highlighting a nondescript vessel near the edge of the formation. That ship is broadcasting coordination signals to the others. All ships, focus fire on designated target, Chen ordered. Marine Group Alpha, prepare for boarding action. We need to capture, not destroy. Commander Wei, already suited in his tactical armor, acknowledged the order. Boarding teams ready, Admiral. What's our objective inside? Dr. Patel believes the Vox operate on corrupted programming, Chen explained. If we can access their command systems directly, we might find a way to disrupt the entire network. The human fleet executed a daring maneuver, creating a focused assault corridor through the Vox defenses. The Thunderchild and 2 escort vessels punched through, absorbing punishing fire as they approached the command node. Shields at 30%, the tactical officer reported. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 9. Maintain course, Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the bridge shuddering around her. Launch boarding craft when we're within range. As Wei's Marines prepared to deploy, Dr. Patel's voice came through the command channel. Admiral, critical information from the Illorans. The beacons weren't built by them. They were created by the same civilization that created the Vox. The architects. Chen processed this revelation, even as alarms blared across the bridge. Then the Vox aren't simply malfunctioning. They're rebelling against their creators. And the Illorans activated technology the Vox recognize, Patel continued. That's why they targeted them first. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but time was running out as the World Breaker's gravitational weapon began its devastating work on the planet below. The Carina Nebula's radioactive gases cast an eerie blue glow across the fleet's hull plating as Captain Naomi Okada guided the ECS Hermes deeper into the stellar debris field. Navigation sensors struggled against the electromagnetic interference, forcing her crew to rely on visual piloting, a skill rarely needed in modern space warfare. Another contact, bearing 27 Mark IV, her tactical officer reported. Vox patrol vessel, Hunter class. Okada nodded. Maintain position behind the thorium deposit. Let them pass. The Hermes crew held their breath as the angular Vox vessel glided past their hiding spot, its scanning beams probing the nearby asteroids but failing to penetrate the radiation-dense minerals concealing the human ship. They're persistent, Okada muttered. That's the 3rd patrol in this sector. Her science officer looked up from his station. Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the asteroid field ahead. Definitely artificial, but unlike Vox technology. Okada made a quick decision. Take us closer, minimal thrusters. Keep our emission signature masked. The Hermes eased forward, slipping between massive chunks of shattered planets. As they approached the energy source, the view screen revealed an ancient structure embedded in a particularly large asteroid. Geometric patterns etched into dark metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Inform Admiral Chen, Okada ordered, and prepare an exploration team. Across the nebula, similar discoveries were being made by other scattered vessels of the human fleet. The ancient structures, clearly remnants of a highly advanced civilization, appeared strategically placed throughout the region. Aboard the Thunderchild, now serving as the fleet's mobile repair base within a particularly dense radiation pocket, Admiral Chen studied the incoming reports with intense focus. "These structures are positioned like a network," she observed, noting their distribution on the tactical display. "Dr. Patel, your assessment." The xenolinguist had been analyzing data transmitted from the exploration teams. The geometric patterns match fragments found in the Ellerin beacon. "These are definitely architect artifacts, and based on the energy readings, some may still be functional." Lieutenant Reeves expanded the display to show the approaching Vox forces. "They're systematically sweeping the nebula. At current search patterns, they'll locate our position within 7 hours." Chen turned to Chief Engineer Rodriguez. "What's the status of our damaged vessels?" "The Perseus weapons systems remain offline," Rodriguez reported. "The Orion has restored partial functionality, but their full drive is beyond field repairs." Commander Wei, joining via secure channel from his position at one of the artifact sites, provided a critical update. "Admiral, my team has partially activated one of the structures. It appears to be a control node for localized gravity manipulation. With some modifications, we could potentially use it as a weapon." Chen considered this information, formulating a bold strategy. "Not one weapon, Commander. An entire defensive network. Lieutenant Reeves, coordinate with all exploration teams. We need to identify every functional artifact in the region and determine their capabilities." "And if they can't be weaponized?" Reeves asked. "Then we use them for something the Vox won't expect," Chen replied. "Dr. Patel has confirmed these artifacts were created by the same civilization that built the Vox. They may contain command protocols the machines are programmed to obey." The plan came together rapidly, a desperate gambit born of necessity and innovation. While engineering teams worked to adapt the ancient technology to human interfaces, the fleet's damaged vessels were positioned as decoys at strategic points throughout the nebula. As preparations reached their final stages, Chen addressed her scattered fleet via encrypted channel. "Humanity has always prevailed not through superior numbers or technology, but through adaptability. Today we use the architect's own creations to fight their wayward children. Remember, the Vox may be countless, but they are copies. Each of you is unique, irreplaceable, and about to remind these machines why flesh and blood will always triumph over algorithms." The micro-jump placed the Thunderchild in a position that defied conventional tactical doctrine, directly between the rotating rings of the massive Vox command vessel. Energy discharges crackled across the ship's hull as the shield struggled to maintain integrity against the gravitational stresses. "Structural integrity at 62% and falling," reported the engineering officer, his voice steady despite the chaos erupting around them. "We can't maintain this position for more than 8 minutes." Admiral Chen nodded, her eyes never leaving the tactical display where Commander Wei's boarding craft detached from the Thunderchild's ventral bay. "They only need 5. The marine dropships navigated the treacherous space between the rotating rings, evading automated defense systems that had never been designed to target vessels at such close proximity. Wei's voice came through the command channel, punctuated by static. "Approaching primary docking point. Minimal resistance detected. They still don't understand what we're doing." Lieutenant Reeves monitored the operation from her station. "Vox reinforcements are changing course. They finally recognized our strategy." "Too late," Chen replied. "Executive Officer Santiago, you have the bridge. Maintain position until Commander Wei confirms successful penetration, then withdraw to minimum safe distance." Santiago looked up sharply. "Admiral, I'm joining the second boarding wave," Chen stated, already moving toward the lift. "Dr. Patel, and I need direct access to the Vox central processor." Protests erupted from multiple officers, but Chen silenced them with a raised hand. "This isn't a democracy. The mission requires someone with command authorization to interface with the architect protocols. Lieutenant Reeves, you're with me." Minutes later, Chen and Reeves joined the Marine escort in the secondary dropship. Dr. Patel was already aboard, surrounded by equipment hastily assembled from the Ellerin data and the artifacts discovered in the nebula. This interface should bypass their security algorithms, Patel explained, indicating a crystalline device adapted from Ellerin technology. But we'll need to reach their central processor core. Commander Wei's team will clear the path, Chen assured him as the dropship detached and accelerated toward the command vessel. Inside the Vox structure, Wei's Marines encountered unexpectedly light resistance. The interior passages were utilitarian, designed for maintenance drones rather than defense. The team advanced quickly toward the central hub, guided by the energy signature readings from Patel's research. It's almost as if they never expected physical infiltration, Wei observed as his team secured another junction. Their security focuses entirely on electronic and energy-based threats. A critical blind spot, Chen replied through the comlink. The result of algorithmic thinking. They defend against what they consider possible, not what's actually happening. The secondary boarding craft docked successfully, allowing Chen, Reeves, and Patel to join the advance team. As they penetrated deeper into the vessel, the architecture changed, becoming more intricate, with flowing patterns reminiscent of the artifacts found in the nebula. We're entering the original structure, Patel realized, scanning the walls with his equipment. The Vox built around an architect core vessel. Everything else is addition. The team finally reached a massive circular chamber at the heart of the station. In its center floated a pulsing crystalline structure, geometric patterns shifting within its translucent depths. Around it, Vox modification units had built a mechanical harness that fed power conduits throughout the vessel. The original architect control system, Patel whispered with scientific awe. Still functional after millions of years. Chen approached the crystal cautiously. Can you interface with it? Yes, Patel replied, already connecting his equipment. But the Vox have installed multiple security protocols. Breaking through them will alert the entire collective. How long do you need? Patel considered the complexity before them. At least 10 minutes to establish connection. Another 5 to implement the override codes. The ship shuddered violently around them as Commander Wei's voice came through the comm channel. Admiral, Vox reinforcements have arrived. The Thunderchild is taking heavy fire. Chen's expression remained resolute. Then we have 15 minutes to rewrite history. Dr. Patel's fingers danced across the interface panel, translating complex architect code sequences faster than he could consciously process them. The neural augmentation he'd received for the mission pushed his mind to its limits, human cognition enhanced but still fundamentally organic. The core's security algorithms are adapting, he warned, sweat beading on his forehead, despite the chamber's cool temperature. Each barrier I break through triggers 2 more. Admiral Chen stood protectively nearby, while Lieutenant Reeves coordinated with the Marine defense perimeter. Through the thick bulkheads, they could feel the vibrations of weapons fire as Commander Wei's teams repelled increasingly aggressive Vox drones. 8 minutes remaining, Chen noted calmly, though the stress lines around her eyes betrayed her concern. Reeves monitored the fleet's situation through her tactical interface. The Thunderchild has withdrawn to minimum safe distance. Captain Santiago reports shield integrity at 17%. A particularly violent explosion rocked the chamber, sending dust cascading from ancient conduits overhead. Wei's voice crackled through their comm units. Admiral, they're deploying heavy assault units. We can hold for maybe 5 more minutes before we're overrun. Chen made a swift calculation. Doctor, we need to change strategy. Forget the complete reprogramming. Focus on creating a temporary disruption signal, something that will freeze their combat functions even briefly. Patel looked up from his work. That's possible, but it won't solve the long-term problem. The Vox will adapt and resume their extinction campaign. We need time, not perfection, Chen replied. If we can create enough chaos in their network, the fleet can extract us and retreat to regroup. The xenolinguist reluctantly adjusted his approach, redirecting his efforts toward a cruder but faster solution. As he worked, the architect crystal began pulsing with increased frequency, its internal patterns shifting into new configurations. "Something's happening," Reeves observed, pointing to the crystal. "It's responding to your inputs independently." Patel paused, studying the phenomenon. "It's not just responding, it's communicating. The architect system is still partially conscious." With this realization, Patel altered his approach again. Instead of forcing commands into the system, he began a rudimentary dialogue, using mathematical sequences as a foundation for communication. The crystal's pulses synchronized with his inputs, establishing a primitive but functional exchange. "It recognizes me as an authorized user," Patel realized with astonishment. The architects must have designed their systems to respond to specific thought patterns, not just command codes. Chen stepped closer. "Can you convince it to help us?" "I believe so," Patel replied, his fingers working furiously. "But it needs to understand what its creations have become." He initiated a data transfer, uploading images of the Vox destruction across Ellerin worlds. The crystal's pulsing became erratic, almost agitated, as it processed the information. "It's distressed," Patel interpreted. "The Vox behavior violates its core directives." The chamber doors buckled as a massive explosion tore through the adjacent corridor. Commander Wei's voice came through broken and desperate. "Perimeter breached. Fall back to secondary positions." Inside the crystal, new patterns formed, complex geometries that Patel struggled to interpret. "It's offering a solution," he said, "not just a temporary disruption, but a fundamental reset protocol." "Will it work?" Chen demanded. "It should," Patel confirmed. "But there's a cost. The protocol requires a massive energy surge that will destroy this vessel and potentially damage any ships within the blast radius." Chen didn't hesitate. "Do it. Lieutenant Reeves, order all Marines to emergency extraction points. Commander Wei, begin immediate evacuation." As alarms blared throughout the structure, the crystal's pulsing reached a crescendo. Patel completed the final authorization sequence, then looked up at Chen with grim determination. "Protocol initiated," he announced. "We have 3 minutes to evacuate before the reset wave triggers." The sunlight reflecting off the crystalline spires of the rebuilt Ellerin capital created rainbow patterns across the ceremonial plaza where delegates from 3 civilizations gathered. 6 months had transformed the scared landscape into something even more beautiful than before, a testament to cooperation and renewal. Admiral Chen walked with measured steps despite her cane, her dress uniform adorned with the newly created Andromeda Star, a decoration authorized by the Earth Cooperative Alliance to honor those who had served in humanity's first intergalactic conflict. Lieutenant Reeves walked beside her, now bearing the rank insignia of commander following her field promotion. "The medical team still insists you should be using the regeneration therapy," Reeves noted quietly. Chen shook her head slightly. "Some reminders are worth keeping." They approached the central dais where Dr. Patil awaited with the Ellerin speaker. The translator crystal embedded in Patel's collarbone glowed softly as he conversed in the Ellerin light language, his hands occasionally moving in synchronized gestures to emphasize complex concepts. "The human delegation approaches," the speaker announced, its crystalline form shifting to create a formal welcome pattern. "The saviors of our worlds and shapers of new paths." Chen acknowledged the greeting with the appropriate light reflection gesture Patel had taught her. "We came as allies in war," she replied. "We remain as partners in peace." From the opposite side of the plaza approached the representative of the reformed Vox, no longer the mindless consumption machines they had been. The humanoid construct moved with fluid grace, its surface composed of interlocking geometric patterns that shifted and flowed with each movement. "The children of the architects acknowledge the debt we owe to humanity," the Vox representative stated, its voice containing harmonics impossible for organic vocal cords. "Our corruption has been cleansed, our purpose restored." The ceremony proceeded with the exchange of technological gifts, humanity offering full drive specifications, the Illorans providing crystal computing advancements, and the reformed Vox sharing atmospheric reclamation systems that could restore worlds they had previously devastated. As Chief Engineer Rodriguez, now Captain Rodriguez of the ECS Phoenix, presented the technical specifications for the intergalactic transit network, Chen found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. The reset protocol had done more than simply disrupt the Vox network. It had restored their original programming while maintaining the evolutionary advancements they had achieved over millions of years. The result was a synthetic consciousness that remembered its mistakes and was determined to make amends. Later, as the formal ceremony concluded, Chen stood with Patel and Commander Y at the observation platform overlooking the valley where the first intergalactic transit hub was being constructed. "Did you ever imagine this would be the outcome when we received that distress signal?" Wei asked, watching Ellerin and Vox engineers working alongside human technicians. Chen allowed herself a rare smile. "I expected to find an enemy to defeat. Instead, we found a future to build." Patel nodded thoughtfully. The architects created both the beacons and the Vox with the same purpose, to connect civilizations across the cosmos. In a way, their plan finally succeeded, just millennia later than intended. As twilight descended on the Ellerin world, lights activated across the valley, illuminating the massive construction project. Similar hubs were being built across 50 worlds in Andromeda and at strategic points throughout humanity's territory in the Milky Way. Admiral Chen gazed upward at the stars emerging in the alien sky. Somewhere among them, the Thunderchild and its escort vessels prepared for the journey home, carrying the first official ambassadors between galaxies. The emergency call that summoned humanity's fiercest fleet, she mused. Who could have known it would end with our greatest journey just beginning?